Picture this. It's a freezing cold February night back in 2004. A 21-year-old nursing student, Maura Murray, crashes her car on this dark, winding road in New Hampshire. Police show up just 7 minutes later and the car is there. It's locked. But Maura, she's just gone. So let's get right into one of the most baffling and honestly haunting mysteries of our time. 7. This number. This is the whole thing right here. It's the beating heart of this entire mystery. It's not just a number on a clock. It feels like an impossibly small window of time between when Maura Murray was seen alive and when she completely vanished. And that's really the question, isn't it? The one that's haunted her family, police, and a whole army of internet detectives for 2 decades now on a snowy road with no footprints leading off into the woods. How does someone just disappear? That's the puzzle we're going to try and piece together. To really get this, you have to go back to that night. February 9th, 2004. Maura, who's this really bright student at UMass Amherst, is driving her Saturn through the White Mountains. Now, this is a seriously remote road. You know, the kind of place where if something goes wrong, you're on your own, and then she crashes. What happens next is a series of events that frankly just doesn't make any sense. Okay, so what's so wild about this timeline is just how tight it is. At 7:27, a neighbour hears the crash and calls 911. A few minutes later, a local school bus driver, a guy named Butch Atwood, actually stops. He sees Maura. He says she's cold, shivering, but doesn't seem hurt. He offers to help, but she says no, she's already called AAA for a tow. So he drives home, which is literally just down the road, and calls the police himself. By 7:46 p.m, Sergeant Cecil Smith gets there, and she's gone. That tiny window between Atwood leaving and the police arriving is just 7 minutes. So who was Maura Murray really? I mean, to have any chance of figuring out where she went, you have to understand the life she was living, because on the surface, she looked like the perfect all-American girl. But underneath, well, a much more complicated and troubling story was starting to come out. And this, right here, shows you the 2 completely different sides of Maura. You've got the track star, the Dean's List nursing student, her dad called his little soldier. But then there's this other side. In the months before she vanished, that perfect image was cracking. She got caught using a stolen credit card. Just a week before the crash. Her supervisor found her totally catatonic, just sobbing after a mysterious phone call, and she lied to her, professors emailing them about a fake death in the family to get out of class. Something was clearly wrong, and what she did on the day she disappeared. It just paints an even weirder picture. She packed up most of her dorm room like she was leaving for good. She took out almost all the money she had from an ATM, bought a bunch of alcohol, and printed out MapQuest directions to Vermont, even though she crashed while driving away from there. I mean, these aren't random things. These look like preparations, but for what? All right, let's talk about the crash site itself, because every single piece of evidence they found on that frozen road didn't solve the puzzle. It just made it 1,000,000 times more confusing. So it's about what was there and what wasn't. The car was locked. I mean, who does that? If they're in trouble, indeed help, her cell phone and her debit card were gone. The rag and the tailpipe. Well, that sparked all kinds of theories for years, until her dad explained it was just an old tricky totter for a car with engine trouble. But the most chilling clue of all the search dogs, they tracked her scent for about 100 yards down the road and then poof, in the middle of the pavement. It just stopped, as if she was just lifted right off the face of the earth. So if nobody, no witnesses, and no clear signs of what went down, the case became a total information vacuum. And you know what happens in a vacuum? Theories rush in to fill the void. Over all these years, 4 main ideas have really taken hold. Each one sounds plausible, but each one has some major problem. Let's just run through them real quick. First, the simplest one, she wanders into the woods, gets disoriented from the crash, and dies of exposure. Makes sense, but they have searched that area again and again and again and found nothing. And remember, no footprints. So, what about abduction? That scent trail stopping in the road really points to her getting into a car, but in 2 decades, not a single credible suspect has ever emerged. Then you've got the idea. She ran away to start a new life. Her actions beforehand seem to support that. But why crash your car and leave your phone behind? That's a terrible start. And finally, the really scary one did a local grabber. Someone who knew the back roads, who knew how to make someone disappear. It's a chilling thought, but there's just zero evidence to back it up. That total lack of answers is exactly why this case just exploded online. This all happened in 2004, right when social media was just starting. It became one of the first huge internet mysteries. It wasn't just a police case anymore. It turned into this massive public puzzle, like a digital campfire story for a whole new generation of armchair detectives. For all the crazy theories you see online, this case had a huge real-world impact. See, the initial police response was kind of slow. The main theory at first was that Maura was an adult, and she just decided to leave her case really shined a spotlight on some major gaps in how we handle missing adult cases. It actually led to Maura's law in New Hampshire, which helps make sure these kinds of cases get the urgent attention they need right away. But through all the noise, all the internet chatter, all the new laws, there's been one constant. Her father, Fred Murray, he has never stopped searching, never stopped pushing for answers for more than 20 years. He's been the human engine driving this whole search forward, and this quote, it just brings it all back down to earth. This isn't just some internet mystery, this is his daughter. So here we are, right back where we started, on a dark road in New Hampshire, staring into a 7-minute gap in time. The disappearance of Maura Murray is just this chilling reminder that for all our technology, for all our connectivity, things are more fragile than we think. It makes you ask a really terrifying question, even in our hyper-connected world. If the digital breadcrumbs can just go cold, could any of us be just 7 minutes away from vanishing forever?